Good morning. Good morning. I think I've got everything set up. We'll see. All right. Where do we start with this? There we go. I went ahead and upgraded. Hey, Oxkira 07. Or the Oxkira 07. How you doing? We are going to be looking more at permissions. I went ahead and did a couple of things the other night, last night, where we can parse things like this into rules, or we deny admin view, or we allow admin view. Right? Just with a little not symbol at the top, right? So when we're I guess I already don't like the naming. Sorry, I got stuck on that. Um, yeah, this is like if it's missing. This is more of a require. Here, let me show you where it's going to be used. This will be used on pages, admin here. So in this case, where we want to be able to say only show this widget if you do not have admin view. What's a good name for that? And is deny the right thing for that? No, that's not the right word, right? Deny is not correct here. And what about the opposite? Let's say that we require this. Maybe we have with and without. That is more correct. So we'd say rule without admin view. Well, that's good enough for now, I think. All right, so if you are without the permission admin view, then we show you this widget. Okay, that's what we're working on. I know it. Let's check my water. Yeah, okay. Got some water. Okay. Let's go into models page where this gets loaded up. Right here, we can access the widget permissions, right? Now, let's go, I'm going to go back to widget for a moment. It's actually in this file, isn't it? Style sheet, script, page. Oh, no. It's in a different file? Nope. It's in this one. And here we have permissions. And this should be a vector of rules. All right, we need serialize and deserialize for that. So I have parse on these. And maybe I could remove this here. This parse might have been the wrong thing for this. All right. Hmm. And it's mostly just going to be deserialized, isn't it? Because I guess eventually it'll be serialized, just not yet. Page. It's not like we serialize pages or widgets. Yeah, it's deserialized only. And we want to rename these. Not those. These. It's a snake case. There we go. Now we can get rid of display and parse, which means I also have to get rid of the test because those are broken. Ah, but it's not quite right, is it? Not quite right. Because when we're deserializing these rules, how do we know that it's one or the other? Right? Here, we have to be able to. We need a custom deserializer for this. Let's look in Saturday.rs for that. Container attributes. Rename. And it's almost like it's tagged. That it either begins with an exclamation or it doesn't. Transparent. From. Into. Hmm. Yeah, we could toss on the serialized with, right? But this is per field. Ooh. All right. Maybe we change our format, our data format, just to support this. How do we want to tag this? I mean, with and without having those. Hold on a sec. Yeah, we ended up taking this from the the JavaScript object into our own type. Okay, so we're not parsing text exactly. So if we go back to tags, variant attributes, which is what this would be. Rename, alias, rename all. Oh, we could toss a serialize and deserialize with on these. All right. And I think we have this working. No. We ended up fixing this. We added this and fixed this in Saturday WASM Bind Gen. In fact, the PR is still open for nearly 3 weeks with no comments. All right. Okay. Why don't we toss this on there? Module. And this will be Saturday rule. And then inside of there, we need module serialize as serialize with and deserialize as deserialize with. So we need a serialize function and a deserialize function. Oh, much better. Okay. That should tell us that it's not correct. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So if we look at the deserialize with, this will tell us, let's see, All right. Resultant fields. We figured this out like 2 weeks ago. So when we deserialize this, will be a rule. Super rule. And this expected enum permissions found permissions rule. Huh. How does that work? Expected enum permissions found enum permissions rule. Let's look at their examples. Good morning. Is that King03? Yeah, we're not working on legacy today, unfortunately. Test suite. I'm gonna see the bigger error here. So bag wants serialize? Seems odd. The trace bound rule serialize is not satisfied. Why does that need? Where do we use that? Use it in permissions. Oh, that's not saved. Okay. Try again. Expected enum permission. This is on rule. So I would expect that when we deserialize this, we are returning a rule. I see. It actually wants this on each one of these. But then how do we know whether or not... Okay. So yeah, it wants to know whether or not... How to deserialize that. But not how to deserialize the whole thing. So maybe we have to do a custom deserializer? All right. Deserialize. Can we get a deserializer? Where's the deserialize function? Impl deserialize. Deserializer. The code below implements every method explicitly for documentation purposes, but there is no advantage to that. That's fine. Cert is not a parsing library. The simple block defines a few basic parsing functions from scratch. More complicated formats may wish to use a dedicated parsing library to help implement their cert deserializer. Oh, I see. Those are just utility. Impl deserializer for deserializer. What? Oh, this is our deserializer. Really, we only support deserializing from strings. It's not like we're going to have anything else in there. So really, we just want to be able to take a look at the first character. And how were they doing that peak Sure. Self.input.chars. Ah, really? Hmm. How does this bootstrap? Is it near the bottom? I'm gonna be staring at this for a couple minutes. Comma separated, yeah. And these are all trait functions, right? They're not public. Deserialized tuple. Does stir have a peak char? I didn't think it did. As with the serializer, the deserializer trait has a lot of methods, but none of them are complicated in this implementation. The deserializer is responsible for mapping the input data into Seriday's data model by invoking exactly one of the methods on the visitor that it receives. The deserializer methods are called by deserialize impl as a hint to indicate what Seriday model type the deserialized type expects to see in that input. I see. So we have to implement a deserializer for this. Man, it's been forever since I've done this. For self-describing formats like JSON, it is fine for the deserializer to ignore this hint and just call whichever visitor method corresponds to the content of the input data. All right. So who creates a deserializer? I mean, there's the fromster on it. Here. It's not quite right for us though, because we're working with Saturday WASM BindGen, and they're going to be calling the deserializer on this. See, they're already calling this, so we don't really have a choice. What else is there? Deserialize in place. And that's the entirety of it? Okay. No, we don't need the in place one. It's going to be a deserialized stir, but only we have to know what the sadly we don't know anything about this. Mostly where we plug into this other deserializer, because here, right, you end up creating a deserializer, right? But we're relying on the one from Saturday WASM BindGen, which isn't correct here. So we have to change it subtly. Now, if we implement some sort of so we need to be able to choose which one of these variants. So now we can pass a visitor in. So we could then say deserialize stir. If that's a type at this point. Here, we're going to back up a little bit. We're going to jump over into Saturday WASM BindGen. Over here. Our two PRs are still out. So if we go through the code, right? Source, deserialize. convert pair deserializer. So here's their deserializer. Font on that side, a bit small. Deserialize unit, struct, etc. So we're between these pieces, right? We are deciding which piece here to call. And it's not that we're calling deserialize stir. We call deserialize enum. Interesting. Why do we have to give it a name? Name, variance, and visitor. So we still have to create the visitor. We know that. Okay, let's look at, come back over here. Hint that the deserialized type is expecting an enum value with a particular name and possible variance. Or views visitor. And we provide a visitor. Okay. Let's give it a name. Rule. And with. And our visitor. Why doesn't. Huh. That's not the right visitor type. All right. Why not use Serdi derive? Hey, Dr. Robotics. We are using Serdi derive. But our data format doesn't map to the. Basically, let me show you. Here. This defines whether or not it's which rule it is. So if your admin view or your user edit. So we have a special tagging for this enum. If it begins with an exclamation, then you are without this permission. If there is no exclamation, then you are with it. So that's what we're working on at the moment, is getting the deserialization working for our list of rules. Here's our rule, right? It's with or without a permission. Got it. All right. So we've got our struct, and that's great for asking questions. I know I can kind of just dive in and not explain everything as I'm going along. So please, please, please ask questions, especially if you don't understand something, because other people will be in the same position. Rule visitor, and then we will impl visitor for rule visitor. Missing type. we are expecting a rule. And then we have our rule visitor here. Was using enum deserialization yourself, and it's a bit tricky because the structure changes if you have embedded types or not. Oh, that's interesting. Now for visitor. Visitor visits all sorts of things. So in this case, we need to visit stir. If we implement the default members, there are a ton of them, right? I'm going to remove everything that's not stir. Use 64, because there's like borrowed stir and all sorts of things. I wanted to see which is going to get called. Borrowed bytes buff, none, sum, unit, new type struct, sequence, map, enum. Wow, there's a ton of stuff here. All right, and this one. Okay, so we end up with 3 stir, borrowed stir, and string. These end up coming down to visit stir, so you could either implement them directly, maybe for some sort of optimization. We'll get rid of those. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that they default to visit stir. That's useful. Okay. So we could either call parse, or we could do something else here. As visit stir, we're supposed to return self value, right? And rule has deserialized already with snake case. So we actually have to visit, we have to deserialize this piece too. From within here. Because at this point, we just know here, V, whether or not V starts with an exclamation, right? So if it starts with that, then we do one thing, but we still have to get the insides correct. Expected unit, found result, correct. All right. What happened there? There we go. Missed an escape. All right. Now we don't actually want to do that. We want to continue the parsing sequence here. So at this point, we know that the type inside is going to be one or the other. Dusky the Dwagon, good morning. Hello, how are you? All right, so we know what. So if v starts with these, we can now figure out whether or not it's with or without, right? Which branch here? We are trying to write our own deserializer for this. We're working on mimeograph, which is kind of like a serverless WordPress, right? So with an enum, I mean, maybe we are the wrong thing. Oh, interesting. Maybe we should have done this here. Visit enum instead. Hmm. I'm going to put all of the other ones back in here. 16, okay. I think we did the wrong one. String was incorrect. F64, visit char, visit borrowed stir, string bytes, borrowed bytes, visit bytes, none, sum, unit, new type, sequence map, enum, there it is. And then this one. I think we should have done this one. Where A is enum access. Okay. So data dot variant and variant seed. Oh, perfect. Okay. Oh, you gotta go. All right, take care. So what does enum access do? Provides the visitor access to the data of an enum in the input. Enum access is created by the deserializer and passed to the visitor in order to identify which variant of an enum to deserialize. Huh. Variant is called to identify which variant to deserialize. This method exists as a convenience for deserialized implementers. Enum access implementation should not override the default behavior. Okay. So really we're interested in implementing variant seed, where seed is V and V is a deserialized seed. But if we were going to implement that, how do we know, like, we don't have any data on this? See, in this case, we're going to say deserialize enum, then visit enum is going to get called, right? In which case, we have variant seed. But we don't have enough information at this point. Because how's Saturday going to work, right? Saturday's going to that plus Saturday wasn't bind gen, right? Saturday's calling Saturday wasn't bind gen for the page object. Okay. It's going to say, hey, looks like we have this type string. So we're going to call the visit string. Then for here, right? Then we visit an option. Then we visit a vector. Then we visit, another vector. Then we visit a vector of widgets. And inside of this vector of widgets, when we're visiting the widget, we have a string, we've got a bag, and we've got this here, this vector of rules. So when they get to this point, because they're not parsing a string, it's not parsing JSON, they're actually converting it from raw JavaScript objects. So what is that representation going to look like? We want it to be a string, right? So they end up calling, it would be a JSON, no, not a JSON, a JavaScript string, right? So when they got into here, this would be a string, okay? Because we basically just deserialized this whole thing into JavaScript object, right? Into a JavaScript object. And then we go through that data structure, converting it into Rust types. And when we get to this point, we're going to parse the string. Yeah, we're not going to visit an enum there, are we? We're going to visit the string and expect an enum in response. So it's not that. It's going to be this. And because of that, we could either parse it directly here. So we do have parse for permission. We also have deserialize for permission. So at this point, we know what it's going to be, but not the rest. Okay, so I'm going to try to not use parse here. What would that be? That would be permissions, deserialize, right? Because that should be getting generated, just like this one here, right? Yeah. So we get a deserialize implementation there. And if we look at Saturday, deserialize, or you get a deserializer. So we pass our deserializer through. Not like this, actually. Who implements this here? This is Saturday WASM bindgen. Yeah, at this point it's already been converted to a string. Oh, crazy. So can we just not, oh, here's deserializer. So we could use that. All right, wiring these things together. So we pass in the deserializer for stir. Deserialize. This is the Saturday WASM bindgen deserializer. Here, if we use the, no, that's not right either. Expected value. Can we create a new one of these? Oh, value is a JS value. Oh, we've basically lost all the context at this point. Because we have a stir here. I guess we might have access to this deserializer here. But we wouldn't have finished parsing the rest of this. Oh, that's too bad. I feel like there must be a way to do that. Because, yeah, it's not like we're continuing to parse the string here. Well, I mean, we are, but you know what I mean. Basically, we want to do visit stir on the deserializer for the rest of it. It's not like we can pass the deserialize in here. Right, because the deserializer is driving this. So we've got the visitor here being passed in to the deserializer. And is there a way to just consume like one little bit here? Strange. I think I've got a key stuck. Hmm. There we go. My keyboard. I don't know if it's the hub or the keyboard. Every now and then, a key gets stuck. So we have a string. Need to call the deserializer for this guy. So it's got all the renaming done for the snake case bits, etc. Yeah, let's see. How would we call that to begin with? We would want to deserializer from stir. Let t equals t : deserialize. You got it from the Saturday docs? Well, that's interesting. Deserializer from stir. And this would be different in each case, right? Some of them would be one or the other. Why is it phrase not found? Yeah. You can make one with this. Interesting. Now, this would be if we had it already, right? For a specific implementation. So maybe we can get this Saturday WASM bindgen deserializer if they do like a from stir on that. So if we go into DE, they don't implement that. They come from JavaScript types. Disable this. Yeah. Yeah, then we would have to implement the default members for that. So how do we get a hold of this deserializer? Is it just yeah, let's go back. I want to make sure that that's there. Implemented on foreign type. So deserialize is implemented on stir. And we could provide a deserializer for that. But in order to use our deserializer, well, the WASM bindgen deserializer, we'd have to initialize that, and it's too late. We don't have that anymore. So we could, or maybe, because we're inside of what? We're inside of a visitor. And we could just call parse here. I wrote that function already. I know, but I'm struggling to continue on the Saturday kind of chain here. Now, from the docs where you did get this, and this here, you'd have to know what kind of deserializer it was. Because deserializer is a trait. So, or to deserialize any. Yeah, I'm not seeing a way to continue this on with Saturday because we don't have the serializer, and we were just given a string. Unless self has something else on it, but I don't think visitor does. I mean, we didn't store anything. And it's not like we could store the deserializer because the deserializer ends up taking the visitor, which would be a little weird to, stuff the deserializer in the thing that's then going to receive it in something that's, well, we can't stuff deserializer in there if we're going to pass that to deserializer. Oh, yesterday you implemented your first visitor in deserializer. Custom format datetime. Very nice. I think because of our custom format here, we're kind of stuck with calling parse. It's already there. Let's get rid of that. I was just hoping to be able to use this instead. SD Dania, thank you for that follow. Not even for your own project, but for a streamer who was struggling with Saturday and decided to manually slice the strings to get the data you wanted. Well, how would I do this, right? So let me put that aside, but let's go back a little bit. Basically, we're using Saturday WASM bindgen to convert from JavaScript objects into Rust types. Okay. And this here, this vector of rules is what we're struggling on. Now, at this point, we've got something. This is a permission in here, but if it's preceded by the exclamation point, then this widget will render only if you do not have this permission. So you're without it. This is Saturday WASM bindgen, yeah, that we're using. This guy. So if you are without the permission, then this widget will render, right? If you are with it, then you don't include the exclamation point. And only if you do have the permission will this widget render. Now, because this has already been converted to a JSON object, right? We're converting from JSON object types to Rust types. And this is a string. So we are visiting the stir, right? For the enumeration. Because we have this rule, which represents with and without. Right? Hey, Ludgate, how's it going? Right? And if it's with, you don't have the exclamation point. And if you are without the permission, then that's got the exclamation point. It's actually pretty good, Ludgate. So we've got our deserializer. Right? We've got a visitor. And we pass the visitor into deserialize enum. So we have rule, with, and without, right? Now, the visitor being a string, well, should receive a string because that's the data format that we're expecting. Right? So that value is going to be passed in. If it starts with an exclamation, then we say, okay, this is a rule without, and otherwise it's a rule with. Now, beyond that, what's here? Well, see, I don't want to call parse here. I would rather, for the remainder of the string, right? Because this is just one, that's the very initial piece of it. I would rather continue calling the deserializer, right? I would rather call the deserializer for the permissions, right? To do the string conversion. Because here, right, instead of having a display and a parse here, right? Yeah, sure, we could just call this, and that would be fair, and we'd be done. Right? But it's a little bit of a challenge to see if we could wire up, make another visitor, and call it deserializer. Oh, interesting. So if we add another visitor, a permission visitor, right? Is that going to do what we're expecting though? I guess the value would be permission. Say, okay, we're expecting permission. We're going to visit stir. We get a string. So it's just like parse, right? One for handling optional datetime and another for the custom format of the datetime. Interesting. What part are we working on today? We are working on permissions. Permissions for mimeograph. So basically, parsing the string syntax for whether or not a widget is shown if you have a certain permission. And this is going to be kind of foundational for this whole thing, because let's say you have a widget on a page and you must have preview permission to be able to see that, right? This will enforce all of that. Right? It's not public yet, it's preview only, right? So that's an interesting idea, patatas del papa. So we end up having a visitor for the next one. I do not work with Rust in my full-time gig. I'm a web dev, my full-time gig. Although I think it's mostly just because of the Rails stuff. I never really got into Rails. And we have Rails backend. All right. The problem. The response has, they're describing an HTTP response. A last update field that is either not present or UTC date time in a custom format. The chronocrate handles date times with a date time UTC type. Okay. As the datetime value might not be present in the response, the type in the struct is option datetime UTC. Looks like so. And where is it? Here, last updated. Let's bump that up a little bit so everybody can read it with me. The date looks like so. There is another field in the response that is always present with the same datetime format. Okay. Solution. Using deserialize with tells Serday to use custom deserialization code for the last updated field. The deserialize optional datetime code is like so. The type should be familiar if you were using Serday before. If you're not used to Rust, then the function signature will look a bit strange. Yep. What it's saying is that D will be something that implements the Serday deserializer trait, and that any references to memory will live for the DE lifetime. You do not need to understand this fully. Okay. This code calls deserialize option passing a struct. I don't use Rails. At work, we use Rails. I've never really done Rails. I did buy a Rails book once, and I played around a little bit with it, and that was too much magic for me. All right. The past struct implements Serday's visitor trait looks like so. So we have a visitor, has a value, visit none, visit some. All right. Doesn't have any fields. Okay. Yep. Visit none returns none. Visit some returns some. Okay. Visit some delegates a parsing to another custom deserializer via the deserialize stir call. It looks like so. So I work with JavaScript. Yeah, I've worked with JavaScript for 20 plus years. So we have our visitor, deserialize stir, which is similar to what we're doing. Daytime custom visitor. Okay. And here they parse it or not. Yeah, this is neat in that they're using the option to be able to pass these through, but it doesn't quite map exactly because they're doing the the Serday deserialize with here, right? Deserialize whatever with equals, right? And I actually need it one level up. I actually need it here. Yeah, yeah. I don't look that up. Why, thank you. Yeah, yeah, I'm in my 40s. It's protected glass. Get off my lawn. All that, you know. Um, Nobody ever comes onto my lawn. It's great. Except the goats. The goats are all over my lawn. Um, yeah, it's a very similar problem, but we're one level removed here. Love that. Was I being serious? Nobody ever shows up and steps on my lawn. It's just I live in the middle of nowhere. Two visitors. Yep. So interesting. In this case, when we visit, hey, how's it going? Yeah, Xenocron, good morning. Good morning. So when we have the first one, right, we end up visiting the star in order to return the rule. Uh, let's see, 20 years. The longest I've been at one place is where my current gig, and I'm coming up on 5 years. Now that's not, goodness, that's, I'd say some people do hop around a lot, like every 3 years or so. I wouldn't say that's required, right? A guy just left the company I work with, and he's been there 7 years. 7 years next month. Um, just good for him. But let's see, I've gone through. Let's see, my own startup. It's in 2001. I started my own company. Making the big bucks, living in the middle of nowhere. Precisely. That's right. Stretch your dollar. But it's true, right? If you can offset, if you can be worth so much to someone and produce enough value, you can demand a decent income. All right. Patatas del Papa. How do we wire up the second visitor here? Right? Because when we say we want to deserialize an enum and we pass in a visitor here, we don't. Here, let's go back to that article. Because when they. Here, data deserialized. Oh, I see. And you pass in the other visitor. But our string, we need to consume one character. Hey, Dad, what's that? Good morning. What's the most valuable thing that one can provide? It's actually a number of things. You kind of have to be able to communicate. You got to be able to deliver, right? I found that people care more about functionality being delivered um, than people being available, right? If I say, yeah, I'm gonna deliver this, but I'm gonna go incognito for like 2 days, I'm like, okay, and then I'll have it done in 2 days, and they'll be happy, right? So communicate, um, deliver, and I think something that's goes really, really under notice, but is to have code that works and is bug free, right? And so going over your code, testing it out, right, before you hand it off to QA, there's a huge amount of value in that. And cycle a lot shorter because everything's still in your head as you're at the very end of implementing something. And that's what so many junior engineers and even like senior engineers miss. They'll be like, I'm awesome, and they code and they toss it over the fence. And it's like, oh, you just gave us a pile. Here you go, elephant. Take it back and fix it. And you go through that a couple times. So, and then you end up building like a great rapport with QA, right? And just knowing that you're going to be testing it before you hand it to QA, you end up providing better estimates because you're like, oh, you know what? It's going to take me so long to go through some of the test scenarios, right? And then when they, you know, when they ask you about it and challenge you, like, why is your estimate another day longer than Johnny's estimate? And you're like, well, I'm going to be testing it, and there's a lot of test cases. They'll be like, oh, Johnny, you weren't going to test this? Johnny, do you not test the code you give us? Yeah. And then you see Johnny's dreams just crumble. Kidding. But yeah, if you do that and you can win over QA, oh wow. What a group of people to have on your side, right? And for them to say, hey, you know what? I don't need to test this very long, because it came from Halsey. And I know it's going to be pretty solid. And they'll test like the crazy edge cases that you don't even know about in your own application. So, yeah, I wish we could pass one extra piece of information. It's right there, and that we can't pass in a portion of the string. And that's what's missing. So, if we were to change our serialization format, because I was trying to be clever, and I'm okay with not being clever. It's okay. Let's do something that's going to work. It's going to be predictable. Oh, your hack of mutable v does not work. Oh, hold on. Maybe take mutable v stir here, then change the v to v. Oh, oh. I don't know if we get a mutable v, or the trait doesn't give us that. Right? The signature value here is just, yeah. It's part of the binding, not of the data. So maybe I can. Oh, sneaky. Okay. But I can't reassign, can I? Like, yeah, one dot dot. Right, like we can't give it that for the next iteration, right? This is, oh, well, it needs to be borrowed, but we need a slice. One. Expected value found DE. What is this expecting? Invalid type. Expected value. Found module DE. What? I don't know what that's supposed to be. I want a little bit more type info. Invalid type. Unexpected stir. Let's look at Saturday for that. Oh, expected. It wants expected. Hmm. Can't do that. Can't do that. I mean, it's just not mutable, right? We can't. No, when you say mutability is part of the binding, I'm not seeing it. Because we have to consume one and then continue parsing. Sure. This feels strange. Okay. So basically I'm going to, well, we have a parser already written. It's right here from stir, right? It's already done. But I want to do it with Saturday. And then what was it? Then we pass, oh, I lost it. And then it was now call the other visitor deserializer, which I don't have. So the other visitor deserializer, let's just create one, right? Permission visitor, impl. And we're going to visit stir. So at this point, if we were to do this, right, get rid of that. Oh, need a value and expecting permissions, plural? Yes. And expecting. Okay. So if we did that, then at this point, we would be, isn't it a, well, we're trying to consume one character, right? If it begins with an exclamation point, then we do one thing. Otherwise, we do the other. If we wanted to use that parser down there, yes. And the more I think about this, the more we should be using that parser. So we're going to bail on this right after we try this. All right, and then it's going to be v dot visit stir, and then we give it really isn't a bad practice to reuse code. Well, I'm going to delete the other one if this works. So v dot visit stir, we end up visiting the string, but for this, wait. We don't have a deserializer at this point to be able to call, hey, do this other thing. Huh. All right. Let's parse it. V is not supposed to be a stir. We have to continue parsing V. So in this case, and here, but yes. And how do we do this? And then this would be whatever the Saturday error is. So something there. And then that should work, right? I'm going to do this different. I don't want to do the parsing twice. Right, the parsing with the error map. So I was trying to get that there. Excuse me. All right. Now at this point, parse is a value, value.parse. Okay. Now which Saturday error do we map this to? Oh, DE error. Yes, because they have two kinds. Hmm. Invalid type, duplicate field, unknown variant, invalid length, missing field, unknown field, invalid value. It's more of an invalid value, isn't it? Custom form. All right. Oops. Don't do that. Invalid value. So then we could give the unexpected error. And what is unexpected? Enum. Show variance. All right. Unexpected : stir. And that's going to be... Oh, do we still have access to that? Or was it consumed? Value. And then the other thing is this unexpected, which is a trait. So something that's just two string, isn't it? This is basically display. Outside of a visitor, that can be used. So inside of a visitor, we can just use a reference to the visitor itself. Huh. Oh, neat. Okay. And we are inside of a visitor. Permission is that. Ah, look at that. Variable does not need to be mutable. Yeah, it's just... And what about this E here? We're just kind of throwing it away. We could... Could bubble that up, right? But this is expected. Invalid type, bool. Because the right side is supposed to be the expected, which it should be able to use that, right? Expecting a rule? Ooh, this is the wrong kind. At this point, we're expecting permission. There we go. Fancy. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All these are trash now. So let's test the rules, shall we? We can have a vector of rules. And not there. Data. It's not Saturday. JSON. Let's use raw strings. Okay. So once we have that, then we can do the Saturday WASM bind gen from value. Right. So that's one. That's with. Okay. Let's see if that works. It's failed rules. Tell us why. Panic to call. Result in wrap. Invalid type enum. Expected rule. Invalid type enum. Expected rule. All right. Valid type enum. Expected rule. Nice. I don't know. Let's see. How are we supposed to deserialize? See, I thought. See, our rule visitor. Stir. Just give it the visitor there. Let's try again. One passed. Bravo. Bravo. Oh my goodness. Okay. More Saturday knowledge acquired. Yeah, that little. Okay, let's toss some bad rules in there. Let's say admin and. Why can't I type monkey? Admin and monkey. This Should parse okay, but we should fail here. So we're going to keep that as an error as a result. But at what cost? Well, it's always good to kind of test the edges, right? You don't want to just play within the sandbox that you're comfortable in. You keep having to like push your way out a little bit. Without that, you don't learn extra stuff. And sadly, like I think we've touched on some of this in the past, but it's been like a year ago. So Rust is huge, just massive. Okay. So I think that works. We can get rid of deserialize there. No? Oh, well, that has to go away. Yep. Oh, Latka. It will return, and then we'll be able to build a website for it very easily and quickly due to this year. Oh my. I was looking at something. Feels lag, man. Are we getting a Starlink moment? I looked at this last night. That right there. Right there. 42% of the web is built on WordPress. What? Actually, I don't know. Oh, I left my phone inside. That is a huge market. That is huge. Did I have any success with my 2001 startup? Yes, actually, it's still going. I sold my portion to it. It wasn't worth much at the time because we didn't get external funding or anything like that. So it was coffee money for a couple of years. Wow, migrating 200-ish WordPress sites to AWS. That's insane. But yeah, I think that WordPress is like the de facto one, right? And you can absolutely build a business taking a slice of that, right? Like 1% of that you could live off of, um, even if you're charging pennies for it. Oh, what was the startup about? It's called Web Group Media. That's unexpected. Maybe they retired that. That's really unlike my old business partner to ever let go of a domain without paying for it. No, no. Is seriously? What, have I ever tried Elixir? Yes, and I love it. Elixir is great. Do they require the dub dub dub? No. Wow. I gotta go poke somebody on this. Paris? Maybe you sold it. The domain. Because the domain wasn't actually used much. Um, Here it is. This is the product we built. I'm surprised about the see? Like I'm not making this up. But yeah, we wrote email management software. Serve.ai. Oh, it's been a while, huh? And this is still going, doing its thing for 20 years. Yep, that's it. That's the one. But yeah, it's kind of a lifestyle business now. The company and profit. Oh yeah, yeah. They make money. They live comfortably. Oh yeah, that's quite a fun ride. Undefined Lamb. Hello. Have I ever thought about making a commercial game? Yes, twice on stream. We've built portions of 2 commercial games on stream. Even though we're doing the website thing now, after this is up and running, we are going right back to the games. All right. So those work. Now, let's. Do I think the game market's a good one? I don't. I think I would. Like, if I were to put both Legacy when it's done and the psychological thriller game Control into one hand and then say, oh, let's put this WordPress alternative in another and charge pennies for it, I think the WordPress alternative is actually going to make more money than the games, sadly, unless they go viral, right? There's like a 1 in a million chance that they take off. Because there are tons of good, great games out there that just don't get traction. Yep. Yeah. I believe that. The market's saturated. All right. Anything else in here? It looks like we've got this working. It's a little verbose. Then I still don't like permissions. I'm going to rename this to permission. How many times have we done this, right? Hmm. Okay. It was built in PHP. PHP from 20 years ago. And in C. Do you think only AAA games will consistently make money? It is kind of a twin cost, and I think part of that is because of marketing, branding, right? AAA games can ride previous gravy trains, right? If they had a successful game, they can just make V2, right? All right. Give that card a check. I gotta ask him how much money he made on that domain, because it looks like he sold it. Well, business partner. I'm just curious. I wouldn't get anything from it, of course. We're just friends now. Unused variable event. Yeah. Okay. Huh. All right, let's get this committed. Maybe not that piece. Not that piece. Oh, what's going on here? Whatever. We'll just do this all. Yeah. Did I write a lot of the code for a serve? Oh, I did miss your question. Cyanide for dinner? Oh, can I briefly explain Elixir's use case in Hive? So basically, Elixir is a very nice language built on top of the Beam virtual machine. And the Beam virtual machine is it's enterprise scale. It just is. It's impressive. I'd say it's more impressive than the JVM. Mostly because it's precise, it's targeted, and the way that they built out the garbage collection is really nice in my opinion, because of the way that Erlang and Elixir have these what do they call them, processes, right? A process in Erlang or Elixir is just a stack that gets CPU time occasionally, right? It's not an actual process, and so you can have millions of these things just hanging around, and garbage collection is done per stack. And because Erlang is a share nothing language, GC is incredibly easy to perform in there. So you end up with this GC language, share nothing, message passing. It's great. It's really nice. Is Elixir being hyped? I don't know. I love it. I really, really like Elixir. I like it better than Erlang, even though, they're basically built on the same virtual machine. Because the language is more familiar and it's easier to refactor. Right? Erlang has the comma versus period for statement versus, for like a block. And that gets a little weird sometimes when you have to refactor them and then, I got to go change the comma to a period or vice versa. So, but yeah, there's that. There's like if you're doing web stuff, there's Phoenix Framework, which is fantastic. Elixir's got documentation just like kind of what you'd expect. Hex dot R. No, it's not hex. What is it? Hold on, I'll get it. It has hex in it. Oh, here it is. Hex docs. Um, so you can, this is like docs.rs, but for Phoenix or for Elixir stuff. Right. So you get the documentation and it's cute, whatever. But this thing it's just solid. It's really good. And it just scales really well. It's hard to crash. It is insanely hard to crash. And the great thing about it is like with Elixir, elixirlang.com, I forget what it is. Oh, .org. Um, they very infrequently release updates because the language is more or less finished, right? And if Erlang updates things or adds things to the Beam virtual machine, then they go ahead and add things to this. There's bug fixes and stuff like that, but It's a very slow changing language. Not quite as slow as Lua, right? Lua is insanely slow because it's basically done, right? And that's kind of the goal of Elixir, to be done with the language. Yeah, Erlang is really old, but it's much more comfortable to program in than Erlang. Fault tolerant, functional programming, extensibility in DSLs, tooling, yada yada yada. Erlang compatible. Yes, you can use any Erlang library, right? My favorite would be Cowboy. I used Cowboy a lot. Cowboy is awesome. Looks ugly? Ah, they're might not be the best designers. But I mean, I was looking at this the other day thinking, oh wow. Yeah, let's see how the WordPress.com site does responsiveness. Oh, so far so good, right? Get these things down here. Scaling out all right. Right. How about this stuff? Yeah, image just gets smaller. Yep. A smaller image. Build simply. Right. Arguably that should have gotten smaller too. Um, grow without limits. That feels kind of kludgy, kind of blocky. See, this is a better read. Oh yeah, Ericsson phones. I don't know. It's just now this one seems okay. That it's doing better than it did before. This one's actually more responsive than the Wix one. Do I like mechanical or chiclet keyboards? I like the mechanical ones. I've had this thing for years. See, Wix, come on, like their hero here doesn't scale down, even though their menu bar does. Look at that. Boom. This does, but the rest of this is created with Wix. I see Wix as a WordPress competitor as well. A little more new age, but what color are these switches? Let's look. I pulled the key off. There you go. When I bought this, I don't even think they had a choice. Yeah, browns. All right. So in here, we need to start doing something with the permissions. Now, what are we going to do with the permissions? So we get the widget permissions. That should be... Oh, and there was one other thing I wanted to do. Can I move something? Let's put that back. So you see action or command. Let's do command. Current word. Oh, workspace. Rename current file. New path. Permission. You can only forward the GK61? I don't know what that is. What is the GK61? Ah, the Mechanical Gaming Series keyboard. Huh. Interesting. Fully programmable. Something fell. Well, that was nice then. Check the permission of the widget. Where do we want this to be? Because at this point we will either include it or not. Or I think that's it. Okay. So we have the widget permissions and we have the session. The session has which permissions? Okay. For permission in widget permissions. That's going to be a rule. Okay. Match rule. All right. Now in this case, let's just call it P. So if you must have this permission in order to view this, and you don't, what's on session? Session roles. So we're basically going to be continuing in certain cases, skipping the widget creation. So if we can, then we include it as if we cannot, and it's a with, Well, that might actually be it. What's this one? Partially moved widget. Oh, we'll just borrow. Ernesto, good morning and thank you for the follow. These should be copy, right? Yeah, they are so simple. There we go. Oh, will it not let us do that there? Cannot move out of a shared reference. Fine, but once we can clone it there. Do I need to? Oh, and we left my mistake. Hold on. Let me fix that. I'm gonna fix Mitch someday. Whoa, 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 whoa. Do not stop streaming. Thank you. Click the wrong button. Okay, that should be the entirety of our permission system. And now we can set those on like the admin page. Where's admin? Here. So if you do not have the admin view permission, this widget should show and you should get redirected. Otherwise, we should add permissions to these. Oops. And since when did I switch music? Did I accidentally do that over here? Oh, we're still on synthwave. We've been on synthwave for like a week now. Yeah, that one was a bit more rock, All right. So let's publish this. I get some water. All right. Page not found. Fine. Admin. Unknown widget type admin. Hmm. Now it takes a minute. Come on. Did I get rid of the admin widget type? We're not requesting it here. So yeah, there we go. Invalid type map. Expected a sequence. Where? Why? I think here. I'm guessing it's for this one here. This is the only one I think that it could be. Here, let's run dev. So we have bag here for widget. Bag does implement this. Oh, but it's a vector. It's transparent. See, in this case, it's looking for a sequence. I was hoping that we could go from an object to this type, basically go through via map, right? What about paragraph? How do we have that for paragraph? And where were we using paragraph? Page paragraph. Here. See, in this case, maybe we haven't used paragraph enough, but I thought this had been working. Props. Props. It's an object with key value pairs. Key and value. But this can't be a string, can it? We'd have to do like a flash message or just message because it's of type redirect. Message and level. That should work. But that means our redirect type is wrong. As you can see. We don't have redirect set up yet. All right, let's just upload. Oh, we have to wait for it to the cache to load. Let's make sure that we're not logged in yet, because that would be a little odd. Uh, Storage. I'm going to delete those. Okay. Reload. Come on. Or maybe it's some other place. Okay. Internal server error. Yeah. Now we guess. Where could this be? It's one of the downsides of building it this way. But I think it has to be this. That's the only thing with a map in it. We'll save that. Upload again. Or just upload pages. There we go. Okay. So it was that. So it's a props. We are going to try and set up a deserialization for this widget. Yeah. Let data equals JSON parse. So we parse that. Let's tab that in a little bit. Okay. And now, let's see. Go from value for data. Unwrap that. W of type widget is going to be equal to that. Okay. Now we can check to see what this is. Actually, I just want to see that it deserializes. I like using tests for things like this, right? That didn't go as planned. Yes. Invalid type. Okay, so we've replicated that in the test. Now, is it the props? How could it not be the props, right? Yep. It's the props. And here we say that this is a bag. It's transparent. It's a vector. So if that's the case, then this has to be a vector of... How do you do tuples in JavaScript? An array? Okay, use this array as well. Thank you. Let's try again. So that worked. I really don't like that format as much. I mean, it works. Let's just keep going with it. which means paragraph is wrong. Or was that? Let's search for all things that could be like this. Is this code on GitHub? No, I don't use GitHub for stuff like this. This pieces of this code are on SourceHut, but I intend for the core of this to be a commercial product. So, and being that it's easier to give than take away, we start out with it being closed sourced. And we do have a little get there with links to both. So as pieces of this become useful and kind of solidified, I take the pieces and make crates out of them. All right. There we go. Oh, and Cold-Blooded Razor, you followed me hours ago, I think. Yeah, 7 hours ago. Thank you for that follow. All right. Waiting for the listen. There it is. Oh, you started a new job recently. Kind of crazy how different a job can be when it's technically the same position. So true. So in this case, this redirect widget is supposed to have been created. It doesn't really have anything. It's not doing anything at the moment. And these are only supposed to show up if you have the admin view permission. So do I have the admin view permission? Am I logged in? Here, let's click the logout button and find out. Now come back here. Oh, it says I've been logged out. Thank you. But the permissions failed. Storage. Session. Oh, it's still there. Oh, I think we were having an issue with this before. So even though it says we logged out, we still have an issue with logging out. Okay, reload. Reload. Oh, it's still there. Oh, how to come up with good project ideas. For me, it's stuff that I would use. Right? It is WASM, yeah. This is WASM. Good use case, build a project. Yeah, that's really it, right? Like when you're going throughout your day, you're like, oh man, I could really use something that did this for me, right? So instead of just doing that thing for like 5 minutes, spend 5 months building something to solve that 5 minute need. That's usually how I do it, right? I could have built, I don't know, a ton of websites with the time I've spent in this. But yeah. Okay, so it didn't work. I think we need to test this build widgets. We should pass widgets into this. In this case, we have permission. So let's say we did have the permission, and in this case, certain of these widgets should not have shown up. Maybe it's this function, can match permission for each one of these roles. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing here. Right. I need to set up a website. So um, can admin view, can admin view, can admin view. That was this one, wasn't it? Oh, I see. I have 2 for loops. I forgot about that. Oh, I don't want a named for loop. How do we do named fors in this? I thought it was simply a tick there. What do I think about GitHub Copilot? I think GitHub Copilot's going to do to coding what Flash did to the web. Oh, with a colon at the end. What did Flash do to the web? It let everybody and their brother make something, right? Well, not exactly. I mean, there's legal ramifications, right? Um, Copilot was trained on a whole bunch of GPL code. So it's really going to bring up into the legal section, like, what is a derivative here? And they've toyed around with some of these things in the past, right? For example, music, right? We'll train this music writing machine on all the corpus of all the music ever. Well, a lot of that's copyright. So then, is it a derived work? So they really have to figure out how it's derived and not. Because the difference between people and Stack Overflow and Copilot is that a person can reason through and say, oh, I am allowed to copy this or I'm not, even though sometimes they don't. Whereas when you get Copilot involved, who's responsible for that asking that question? Yeah. You feel like there was some kind of joke utility? We can have it automatically search the error message and copy paste. Oh, right, right. All right, let's see. Nothing should show up. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Now, what about this one without this? We didn't see any without on page. Pages, upload page. Oh, Microsoft would never do that. I think they're looking to have code written more quickly, right? So we saw these three, but not this one. If not admin view. Recently, some keys showed up hard coded in someone's code. um, yeah. And if you ever get your keys committed into something that's public, don't try to erase them. Change your keys. Just let it go. Delete it later, right, in another commit. But your first thing. Why is it not going into that branch? We're not getting anything with the without rule for the permissions. Widget permissions for the admin page. Unless we didn't upload this since putting that back? I thought we did. Don't use that kind of code as training data. Yeah. Oops. That is saved. Might take a minute to get that data synced. Because that should have been a without. Unless I spelled permissions wrong? Looks correct. We already have a test for this deserializing correctly. So that's fine. Hmm. Why does that one not show up? with and without, true, false. I mean, it should be right there. Oh, and Jagark, thank you for that follow. And now this one. This should be value. Is it not getting... Oh. These are fine now. But it didn't compile. Let's try again. Well, that... Bang is the... I don't know, nickname for exclamation mark. If you're talking to an old Unix admin, they say bang. That's what they mean. So... Hello. How are you? Hello, Dr. Pyro. How you doing? Who did I say mimeograph to? Oh, mimeograph is said to our bot. Wait. All right, Dr. Pyro, you seem very bottish. All right. So we have false, true, false. Okay, false, false, false. Gonna reload again. True, admin view. False, false, false. So it did have a true in there. Interesting. Why? This log. Oh, and thank you for that. Ornong live. Gonna borrow format. Gonna do a debug on the widgets. I think we need one more. Like so. Oh, it doesn't implement debug. Really? I guess I really want the permissions, but... What is going on here? Alright, if either of you is not a bot, text me later. Just message me. Thank you. All right, and debug for this. And they were co-pilots. Oh, that's funny. All right, let's try it now. Okay, we have widget, bag data, permission, without admin view, with. All right, so that should have hit. We have all of those. Oh, now we have without admin view. We didn't change anything. Okay. Well, let's implement redirect then, because in theory, it's working. You got 2 for one day? Yeah, 2 for 1. I'm guessing that somebody actually set them up to talk to each other or put 2 of them in the same room. It's unfortunate because it kind of spammy, and I'm very likely going to miss real questions. So that's too bad. And thank you for the muted. Yes, I was muted. What do we do if we have a redirect without a message? No questions? Like, is a hot dog a sandwich? Oh, is it a sandwich? Is a pita a sandwich? Like if you take a... What about like a gyro, right? Is a gyro a sandwich? I don't even know what the definition of a sandwich is. You started this, Turbo Dave. Is there a working front end for mimeograph yet? Well, we're working on it. It does a couple of small things at the moment. Let's say 2 or more slices of bread with a layer of meat, fish, cheese, etc. between them. A partially slit bread roll, pita, etc. with a filling. That's a hot dog. A hot dog is. I mean, look at definition 2. A partially slit rolled bread or bread roll, which is a hot dog bun. A hot dog bun is a bread roll. Wow, they goes to so far as to say something resembling or suggesting a sandwich. Huh. What do you do when your pants catch on fire? Put them out with your pantyhose. Oh, Riven. You here. A calzone. Ooh. Yeah, is a calzone a sandwich? Wow. That's a good question. I mean, it meets all the criteria. Oh, yeah, it's not slit. Good point. Good point. So, yeah, slit is the magic word there. It's not slit. I mean, you might have vent holes, but that's not like a slit. Calzone sounds so bad for you. All right, so we take the message. I think we want to do a match on this. I mean, something like panties. Oh, interesting. Huh. I think I want more of an if let sum. There we go. Oh, I need to know the level, don't I? So if we have a message, and we also need to know a level. So let's get the level. Let level is going to be equal widget.props dot take level dot unwrap or else. Let's by default use error. Okay, then at this point, actually, see self.flash. That's not public. Although it could be. All right. Wait, why does it think that's a string? Oh, we have to parse that. an option to a result, and then we transpose that. Now we have a result to an option. So at which point we can use that. Then we unwrap our else. Flash level from str is not satisfied. Oh. Oh, interesting. Calzone is a pretty old term for pants. Calzone rotos. Broken panties. There's a food here in your country. What kind of food is that? Calzo is used for socks and such, which is where the name came from. Interesting. And it's delicious, so calzones rotos, huh? Interesting. That does sound good. See, at this point, what do we have? Got a level. See, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have a more complicated structure there for the value of that thing. But I get that bag. Uh, I mean, I could just deserialize it, have a string, a JSON string inside of that. I mean, do I need this on anything? Yeah. It's so sad. In order to do this, what do we have to do? We have to take this into a JS value from stir, right? So we do that. Now we have a JS value. Oh, it wants a borrowed string. There we go. Now we have an option to a JS value. And we map that again, and we use from value. Okay, that gives us the result. Transpose, flash level, done. It's not mutable. There we go. And the flash. Good, good, good. Hmm. Oh, then we need the redirect. Where are we redirecting to? Just redirect to slash. Unwrap or else. Okay. I typically don't do strings like that. Let's do a string from, so we know what it is. Oops, one more. That might just work. Okay. I'm actually going to restart that. There we go. So this should get us redirected back to the home page if we don't have the permissions. I would like to be able to have something like that on the top level, right? So like, oh, you know what? You need such and such permissions for this. Like the page altogether. I'm kind of shoehorning this in to solve that. Because I want this to also work. There's a number of things that I think should work here. Oh, sandwich. Oh, page not found. It redirected us. Now, if we go to login and we do our log, yeah, that should have been on the previous page. And we go, I don't have that account in here. Let's try this. Ah, that redirected us to here just because we're supposed to go there. And if we go to login again, it should give us the message, right? We are logged in. We had a login successful. We go to admin. Now we see admin. Lovely. Okay, so that's working. So now we need to pretty up the users page. Right now this is just the users list, like so. Let's pretty that up. Gonna take some of these. We'll go to admin users. Let's see, this is more of a, what, like a user edit permission? Admin view, yeah. And eventually all of this is going to be handled by machine, which will be nice. So let's see, user edit. We need another one for user list. So they get it, they don't. a user does not get to list other users, and a visitor, they don't get it either. Yeah, user list, it's never constructed. Here. There we go. Now we have user list for our admin users page. All right. All right, so now we have this user list, upload pages to the test environment. And you can kind of see where this is going. We just drop the widgets on the page, and then if you don't have access to them, then they don't show up. All right, now if we click on that, we're also missing some big pieces. Click on delete. That's also missing some Chrome and some stuff. This should be kind of in the center of the page. Now, what are we going to do here for Bulma and this? It feels like we need the columns to center this. So I'm going to take that from setup. That's probably the easiest place to grab those from. Here. Oh, that's right. And we were using a panel for that. We could continue using a panel for that. I don't know, though. Might come out kind of funky. Oh, that, and we didn't toss a nav bar in there. It would be nice if this was automatic. Oh, we are using navbar. I was thinking breadcrumbs. It's all right. And why is the background this color? Isn't it supposed to be black or dark? Admin template. I mean, what wasn't... Oh, no, we are missing the dark background on that. And that kind of leads us into nested components, nested widgets. Where you could specify children, right? But if we do that, then we need to come up with a very consistent API for these, because some of them have need of events, some with session, some with widget. So how do we pass this information in? It seems like there's a lot of potential there. Yeah, a lot of potential. All right, but for now, let's ignore it. I'll think about that a bit later. Come into users. Now we have this. That's not at the right spot. Now what we're considering using here, we center it. See, like this could be a widget, right? Hmm. Wow. I think we're gonna pivot this and work on nested components. I just want to see what the size increase was from that. Doesn't look like it actually bumped it too much. 3, okay. Not too bad. But in general, these are all going to have to be async now. Yep. That one takes the widget, yeah. All right. Get UI. Bag, fine. Yep, that's public. That's fine. Renamed permissions. Roles got updated. We have a new role. Redirect. User list. Okay. I haven't seen my component system yet. But when I consider nesting, you recommend thinking about slots as an option for easier composability, if that's a word. What do you mean slots? Because yeah, that's an interesting term. Because I'm thinking that a component can have child components, right? And that it would always be a list of children components. All right. I'm gonna go to the widget type. Children. Vec of widget. Widget. That feels like it should be an option to that. Almost the same here. Because if we have the vector, we're actually doing a heap allocation, right? As opposed to the none. So by having the default for the vector, uh, yeah, we only reference that in one place. I'm gonna save the heap allocation, even though I like the others semantically better. It's like it's empty or it's not, right? There we go. Okay, and then let's go back here. Same with this. Yeah, we're working on the permission system today. We've actually just switched over into the composable widgets. Okay, you have prepared slots, so like head and body, and you can fill those slots, thus inject them without the other component needing to know about the slot input at construction. I think so, and I think we're heading in the same direction. Um, but because I have a kind of a strict list here, um, bag is key and value for strings, children could be a vector of widgets. And if I really wanted to, I could wrap these in with like position information. But I think it's up to the parent to know how to place the child, right? And I'm hoping that we don't end up with like I don't know, a crazy sort of yeah. I like the slots. I just don't know if it's gonna be like the named slots. But I see what you're saying, and that the children would have like a slot, right? And this would be, or here, be a vector of slots. Name would be foo, right? And then value. would be a widget. Like I could see having name slots, right? And that could be interesting. Or we, hmm. Yeah, let's do unnamed for now, and if we need to come back and change that, we will. Yeah. All right. So let's make a widget. We've got a couple of widgets that I want like right now. Don't I have to specify permissions to use this specific deserialize? Pardon? I don't think we do. I mean, it's working without it. Maybe I missed the question, like the meaning in the question there, patatas. Oh, I'm not using deserialize with. We're implementing deserialize, and because because we're using the Serede WASM bindgen from value, right, we know what it's coming from and what it's going to. So our implementation of deserialize for the rule has basically the type information on both the left and the right side. It's like the incoming and outgoing, the input and output side of it. So it has enough type info there to deserialize correctly. All right, so then we have widget, and widget can have children of widgets. Great. So we're going to make a widget. Let's call it, what shall we call it? How are we going to do that with build widgets though? Here. Because in this case, we're actually getting all of the possible widgets returned. Right, we have a futures unordered. So there's a whole bunch of awaits on there. Maybe it's the responsibility of the parent to also initialize the child. In which case, we may need this function to be a little bit more generic. Okay. It is 10. I gotta run. But this is on the list for next time. Because once we have nested components, then we can have something like columns and different pieces where we can just create a new one of these, right? And this is the beginning of kind of the template system for the web side of things, right? For the presentation side. Because let's imagine that you wanted to create, I don't know, let's say you wanted to create something like this, right? Where you had a title here, you had whatever this is, right? Some sort of vertical component with 2 rows, right? And then you toss text in here, toss text in there, done, right? And then you have a widget with 2 columns, right? Equal space centered on the page. So you might have some sort of centering widget and then 2 columns here. And then you fill them in with some gigantic image there. That is hideous, by the way. And then, yeah, text. And this could be some other widget that is maybe vertically stacked text, right? Three rows. 1, 2, and 3. Or this is just one big rich text blob here. And that could be the case. But 2 columns, right? You can do a lot with some very, very simple things. So, right, this could just be text blob, rich text. Then I was thinking about using that rich text, the Basecamp one. Is it tricks? This one. MIT licensed. So it should work all right for this. And I think it would do most of what we need for the text editing. So that should be fine. The image bit is interesting. Because this means that you basically have plugins for this, right? Attach files. Yeah, there's something that you can do a little extra there. So that would be a widget, and then a whole bunch of other widgets for layout. And then images, right? And then you have website. All because we've gone through this, was it 7 weeks? Almost 2 months now. It's finally starting to come together. Who's out there today? Ooh, a noob learning Rust from the official Rust book. All right, y'all. We got to help him out. We're going to raid them, or we can cancel and go raid someone else if we have some good suggestions. Let's see. I got Jessica Mack. We've got Lana Lux, Gold Software, Rose Rainblood. I don't know, but let's raid the guy learning Rust, huh? Oh, that's where we started out, right? Spent 2 months just saying hi to people, talking to myself in the silence. All right, here we go. Till next time, y'all. Bye bye. Help him out.